Welcome, everyone. This is Elsie Kerns, and we made it on, and we're looking forward tonight to sharing some really interesting information, a little out of the box for us. So I have Becky Austill-Clausen with me this evening, and Becky is not only an occupational therapist, but also a Reiki master. And Becky really learned Reiki many years ago, back in the early 90s, with the founder of Wellness Workers Holistic Health, Anne Marie McClintock. And she has been teaching it and will be teaching it, as a matter of fact, at the American Holistic Occupational Therapy Conference in Boston, March 25th and 26th. But tonight, I want Becky to tell us about her collaboration with William Stillman, who is a psychic medium. They're going to be doing a special workshop on March the 7th, that Saturday, called Calling Heaven, if I've got that right. And also all about afterlife communication. And Becky is sort of an expert on that because she wrote a best-selling book, an award-winning book called Changemaker: How My Brother's Death Woke Up My Life. So, Becky, I want to welcome you and ask you to tell us what is going to be taught at this workshop, March 7th. It'll be in Hummelstown, PA. That's Saturday from 1 to 4:30. So give us an idea of what we can learn that day.
Well, first of all, Elsie, thank you so much for inviting me back. I enjoy talking with you immensely, and I'm just thrilled to be here. I am also thrilled to be presenting with the renowned psychic medium, William Stillman. And he's going to be starting off the workshop. It's on March 7th. He's going to start about 1, and he'll have half the workshop. Then he's going to be talking about his experiences with the afterlife. And he's been a psychic medium for, at least 15 years. And so he has lots and lots of information to share. And then we'll have a little break, and then I'm coming on, and I'll be talking about how I learned to communicate with my brother who passed, which I had no psychic or spiritual experience at all, Elsie. I mean, absolutely zip. And my brother died in 1995. He was 37 years old. I couldn't believe he passed. It made no sense to me whatsoever. And I think everything in life is positive, and I could find nothing positive about his death. And 6 weeks after he passed, I was riding my horse through a Christmas tree farm, and I received the best present of my whole life. You know, when we're so filled with grief, we can't feel anything except for the grief. But for that day, it was a beautiful day, and we had just had our first frost. It was in November, and it's a Boston accent, so you'll hear that. But I was riding my horse through this Christmas tree farm, and I saw all these icicles and rainbows sparkling from the trees, and I opened up my heart just a little bit, and I said, "Thank you, universe, for a beautiful day." Closed my eyes, and there was my brother David, and he was in human form. I had never, ever seen or heard or done anything like this. And he was wearing a black and red plaid flannel shirt, dungarees, and sandals. And I started to talk with him, and then realized that I didn't have to talk. I could just send thought, which was incredible. He was great. I was fantastic. I looked behind him. There were my grandparents, my mother's parents, that had passed away about, 10 years ago. Also beside them was Edward, David's best friend, who had passed, Holly, a friend of mine who had passed, and 24 other people. And the story goes on, but that was the first time that I believed that life was eternal. And so I'm going to be sharing some experiences about how I learned to reconnect again with David, with my parents that have passed, with many, many, many hundreds of people that have passed, even though originally I had absolutely no experience. And we're also at the work. So I'm going to be sharing a little bit about that. And then we're also going to be doing a bit of an intuitive activity with crystals. And I've got about 50 different crystals. And so we're going to be exploring those. And I've got a whole set of crystal singing bowls. And so it'll be an interactive presentation explaining about what heaven is, what the afterlife is, and how we can set ourselves up to communicate with our loved ones that have passed on.
Sounds very exciting. And I don't know much about William Stillman, but tell me how you met him, and the two of you have formed this collaboration for this March workshop. So how did you two get together?
Oh, Elsie, it's a great story. I used to own a large rehabilitation practice, and we always did regular continuing education for our hundreds of staff. And then we invited the community of therapists. And I had invited Dr. Christy Koenig, and she's a wonderful occupational therapist. At that point, she was a faculty member at Temple University at the occupational therapy department, also a faculty member of Sensory Integration International. So I said, hey, Christy, come on and talk with our group. And she said, Becky, I'd love to do that. And I also have someone I'd like to bring, if that's all right with you. And she said, he's an autism expert. His name is William Stillman. And I said, yes, please do. Because this was at the time when people with autism, children with autism, were being very fully mainstreamed and integrated into the school system. And we were trying very hard to provide the best type of service possible. And so Bill and Christy gave a phenomenal presentation, and it was so good. I frankly started to cry. I had never heard things so practical and so clear and so well thought out about how to work with children with autism. And so we've had Bill and Christy come back a couple of times, and then I invited Bill to be a keynote speaker at the Pennsylvania Occupational Therapy State Conference. Well, actually, it wasn't my choice to invite him. I had to get permission, and they agreed. And so I had the honor of introducing Bill at one of the state conferences for the Pennsylvania OT Conference. And Bill and I were backstage, and somehow we started talking about the afterlife. And I guess I must have shared that I can communicate with my brother, and he looks me straight in the eye. And he says, Becky, do you know I'm a psychic medium? And I said, Bill, I had no idea. And so we started sharing our experiences, and I've seen him present as a psychic medium a number of times, and he is excellent. Absolutely right on, phenomenal. The connections that he gets, the evidence that he provides is terrific. And so recently he said, hey, Becky, why don't we do a workshop together? And I was so honored and so excited. And I was like, yes, let's do that. And so it's coming up on March 7th at Hummelstown, Pennsylvania. It's through a site called Brownstone Station Wellness Center. And so people can register by going to the Brownstone Station Wellness Center registration area on their website. And so it should be great fun. I'm very excited.
Yes, I did put that link up on Facebook, and I'll do it again. And, you know, you are an occupational therapist. So how do you blend this science-based background of yours and work that you do with the afterlife and communication?
Well, I have to say, I kept this quiet for 20 plus years. When I learned how to talk to my brother, it was in 1995. And then I studied it for 20 years. And I learned from a shaman the first year that a friend of mine, Dr. Amy Carroll, who actually was on our staff at the time, she's now a faculty member at Thomas Jefferson University. She's an occupational therapist, and she was working with me at the time. And she came in after my brother David passed, and she said, Becky, I met somebody that I think you'd like. And she's a shaman, and she talks to people that have passed on. And I had asked for a teacher. I had no idea how to find out how to do this again. And her name's Nancy Ariel, and she lived in Reading, Pennsylvania. And so I apprenticed with Nancy that first year for 3 to 6 hours a week. And I have to say, this was in the mid 1990s. People were not talking about the afterlife. And so I didn't share this hardly at all. But for 20 years, I've studied a lot of different holistic and metaphysical avenues. And then what happened was I finally developed the courage to share this story. And I said to my chief financial officer, Bob, and we'd been working together for 20 plus years. I said, Bob, my soul is crying out for me to publish this story. And he said, I'd be very glad to stay here and run the business, even if you're not here. And so at that point, I was trying to figure out how to put this information into a book. I'd already written it, but I just didn't have the courage to share it. And I wasn't exactly sure that it would be a good idea if I said that I was an occupational therapist and I talked to dead people. Like, I wasn't sure that was a good idea, but I went to an American Occupational Therapy Association annual conference. And there was a poster by Dr. Anne Marie Hansen, who's from Duquesne University faculty, and it was called Spirituality. And I knew we did something with spirituality, but frankly, I had no idea what we did. And I spent easy 10 or 15 minutes reading everything on this poster and realized there was a place for what happened with me. So at that point, I decided to submit a proposal to teach Reiki Level 1 at the American Occupational Therapy Annual Conference. And lo and behold, it was accepted. And it was the first time that Reiki certificate courses had been accepted, and I was thrilled. So the next year, the American Occupational Therapy Annual Conference came around, and I thought, gosh, I've taught this one-day course on Reiki. Let me see if I can teach Reiki 2, which is also a one-day course. And lo and behold, that was accepted. And so for the last 6 years, every year I submit a blind proposal, blind review, and I write all the latest research and why Reiki, which is considered universal love energy, universal energy. It uses love, it uses peace, it uses the energy that we all have. It reduces pain, stress, and anxiety. It also increases our vibrational levels. And so it does, as a side point, it does increase our ability, in my opinion, and experience to communicate with loved ones that have passed on. So when I'm teaching Reiki, that's sort of a very small component of the Reiki class, because what we're talking about is energy and how we can feel energy with ourselves and with others is a huge experiential component with my classes. And it's been really, really exciting. And so I'm able to blend the science of energy with occupational therapy. And then it got broadened into physical therapy and then into working, I provided to medical professionals and nurses and the general public. And it's really a fairly basic concept, is that we all have energy and we can use that energy to help share love and to help not only ourselves heal, but to help us heal others. And everybody has this. There's no magic to it. And it's really been wonderful to bring that science, the science of energy, into the medical professional world.
I agree with that. And I've been teaching Reiki since 1992. And
Right.
I agree that, it's not only using it for yourself, but with others. And it is based, as you said, on that universal life principle.
Yes.
So actually, I knew that you had sort of kept this information about communicating with your brother for 25 years till it was the right time to bring it out. So after you wrote the book, Changemaker, How My Brother's Death Woke Up My Life, what actually took place in your life when that book really came out? I know you won the Nautilus Award and other, awards for the book. So how did it change your life?
I was scared. I was willing to put my professional expertise on the line and publish this book. But quite frankly, I thought I was going to be ostracized. And so when it started to win awards, it was such a validation that after death communication with the afterlife was becoming mainstream. And people seem to respond well. It has components of occupational therapy in it because it is a memoir of what happened to me that very first year after my brother passed. It's all real. Every single thing happened in the end of every chapter. And it's set up that the first chapter is October, and that's when my brother David passed. The second chapter is November. The third chapter is December. It goes on for a year. And at the end of every chapter is what's called an illumination. And that's where the occupational therapy part comes in. That's where I provide suggested activities and concepts for people to think about and for people to try and for people to experience if they want. And then in the back, there's, oh my gosh, I think it's about 275 references organized by chapter. So if people think I've lost my mind, at least they'll know I'm a well-read imbecile. And so people have enjoyed it. And it's been so fun to share that. I actually have a picture, or I have the book. Here's my book. It's called Changemaker.
Yeah.
How My Brother's Death Woke Up My Life.
Yeah.
And it's really been awesome. So the book getting published was a very validating experience for me. And then people have started calling and having me do workshops. And so I've been traveling all around the country. And my whole gig is to teach people that there is nothing special about me. If I can do this with no psychic or spiritual background or experience, so can anybody. And that's what I love to do, Elsie. I love to share signs and symbols and communication processes to help people do this. And then it works. It's so amazing. Like, I'll give these workshops and it works, and people will communicate with their loved ones. And it's a very healing, supportive feeling to realize that our loved ones are still around and that we can communicate with them. And so it's been an amazing experience of flow. I absolutely feel like I'm in the flow. I feel like the universe is helping me share this message. And it's been a very hopeful and hope-filled years. Sorry, so that wasn't grammatically correct. It's been 3 or 4 years filled with hope. And it keeps going. And it's been very, very lovely, loving, and exciting.
Well, you certainly show your passion. And I want to thank some of the ladies that have joined us. Lori's on, Pam Youngins, who is a great astrologer. We just did a webinar with her last week, and she said it sounds like a great book. Donna Kiernan is on. So, Becky, I know that you mentioned teaching these workshops. So what trainings do you offer, and how would people get in touch with you or know what's coming up? We did talk about this one, March the 7th, with William Stillman, but how about others, not only on after life communication, but also on Reiki?
Sure. My big new event, I'm so excited, is a 7-week live online course that I'm in the process of designing. It's going to start in October of this year. So it's 2020. And I think it's very interesting that it's going to start in October, because that's the month that my brother passed. And so everything's been synchronistic as far as this course. And it's going to be 1 day a week for 7 weeks. Each course is going to be about an hour and a half, and it's going to be on teaching people how to communicate with their loved ones. And so we're going to have different activities and experiential suggestions and homework and different avenues for people to try. And so the best way to find out about that is to follow me on my website. I've got an events page. My website's just my name. It is a long name, Becky Austill-Clausen.com. And so that'll have information. I've got email blasts that are going out. Hopefully the social media will be, pretty extensive at the time. So that's coming out this fall. I'm teaching Reiki at the American Occupational Therapy Association again, and that's in March. And so that's going to be in Boston. I'm also teaching it at College of Misericordia University, and Misericordia's in northern Pennsylvania. And so I'm going to be teaching it there. Temple University just asked me back for the 3rd year in a row, so I'm excited about that. Actually, even just in a couple of weeks, I'm doing a local authors presentation in Downingtown, Pennsylvania at the Downingtown Library. So I'm going to be sharing about Changemaker. I've got events all over the place, and so it's really going to be quite fun. But the one I'm really, really excited about is this March 7th workshop with William Stillman. That's going to be a first for me, and I can't wait.
Well, I wish you great success, and I will make sure that we have those links down there. People know how to get in touch with you, and it's so exciting to talk to you. We'll have to do this again before the October online event.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, and I have to say, I mean, Becky, when you see we not only had TV shows on mediums, but you look at James Van Praagh and John Hollis and all these people that are out there teaching and speaking about it. People seem much more open, not only to the possibility of energy healing, but as you said, of afterlife communication. So
It,
great success with this.
thanks. It is a very hopeful message that we live forever and we can communicate. We can do this. And it's not rocket science. Like, we can learn, and there's different steps on how to facilitate it. And I've been teaching this for 3 years, and it works. And so, Elsie, I am so appreciative of being back with you and sharing this. And I thank you so very much. You're absolutely terrific.
Thanks. Thanks a lot, Becky. And we're going to put this up, share it around on Facebook, and I'm sure that people are going to be very interested in what you have to offer. And I have the cover of your book will be on the YouTube replay. So thank you so much for joining me. We worked out those glitches. We're techie savvy.
Thanks to my husband on that. So that was great.
Okay, everyone, thank you for joining us again. You know, Pam and Laurie, Donna, and some of the other people listed there. And this is Elsie Kerns, your Chaos to Clarity coach, and we're on our Energize with Elsie Be Live TV. So take care, everyone, and we'll put all this information below so you know how to get in touch with Becky.
Thank you so much. Lots of love to you and to everyone. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, everyone, have a good night.